Welcome to Moms in the Wild with Kate
and Caro,
where we laugh at our wild moments to make you feel better about yours. Hi, welcome back. Today we are going to be delving into the wonderful world of birth stories. Wonderful in big fat quotes. But before we do that, I think we're going to both talk about our wild moment of the week.
Our wild mom
moment
of the week.
Yes.
My wild mom moment of the week was this is going to sound gross. It's fine. I don't care. We have bugs. We live in an apartment. I think a lot of apartments have bugs.
Yeah.
But we've been seeing them more. So I am infuriated. We've cleaned the house 86,000 times. Pest control has come, and I still will find an ant, and I just get very enraged by this.
So frustrating.
So much mom rage. And so there was a roach in our sink the other day, and violently murdered that roach with a tin cup. Was literally murdering this roach, and I looked up and my 8-month-old child was in her little activity center just staring at me. So I tried to be oh, mom's playing. It was violent and awful. Mom? And I was like, great. Yeah, with just mouth agape, staring at me in my eyes as she just witnessed a murder. And I was like, oh, good. So then I felt bad about that. She didn't care. She didn't cry or anything. I just decided that I was going to feel guilty about that. So I picked her out of her little activity center. We went and sat on the couch, and I knocked the only toy that she can identify, the only toy that she knows my name, off of the couch, and it broke. So, wild mom moments.
Killing it. Literally.
Feel like that's going to be a core memory. It's going to be a really good one for her.
She will never remember that.
She's like, I distinctly remember my mom just murdering something in our kitchen sink.
So my wild mom moment of the week is my sweet, sweet son, who was born 1 month before the pandemic happened. So I'm not sure how he became this way. Is a big lover, loves to hug, loves to kiss, and we were at the park with a brand new mom friend, of course. It's always when you're with
it's
a brand
always
new
someone
mom
new,
friend.
So you have no rapport built. They don't know that you are a great person or that your kid's a great person.
Correct.
It's always someone new.
Yeah. I look over, and my sweet little boy, who's been playing with this 3-year-old girl the whole time, who wasn't the kid of my mom friend, another just random child at the park, whose mom was watching, I look over, and he is hands planted on both sides of her face, just about to just pop one right on her lips.
Beautiful.
Just give her a big old fat kiss.
Yeah. He said, I don't need to ask to do this. I just do these things. And you're like, ooh.
Does not exist to 2-year-olds.
No.
In the moment that I am like, Bubba, no, it happens.
Yeah.
He just lays it on her. And I just had to look at the other mom like, I'm sorry. I don't, the weird, maybe post, maybe not COVID world that we're in, I don't know how to react to that. Thank God she was cool about it.
Yeah. I love when a child does something and you look around and all the moms are like, that seems right on par with what they should be doing. It's such a good feeling. Like, oh yeah, it is. Especially when you're the new mom friend.
Yes. I was mortified. But also what's the alternative? He could have smacked her. So that didn't happen.
No. Also, yeah, because any amount of, it's so hard with kids because you're like, just no physical contact with other people.
Yeah.
Even if it's nice, just stop. Don't touch other people. Don't touch the people. But it's hard because you also want them to be loving and respect people's terms of touch and contact, and theirs be respected. But it's, again, a learning curve. Like you said, 2-year-olds don't know. My child just shoves their whole fist in my mouth. Yeah. Lovingly, too. And I should stop it. Do I?
No.
But then when I watch her do it to a stranger, I'm like, there it is. That's why I need to learn to be a parent. Because I can't just have her be like, that's where that goes. Inserts hand in mouth.
The other mom whose my child kissed was, thank God, wow, cool. You have a real ladies' man over there. I'm like, yes,
excellent.
I do. He terrifies me.
Yeah.
That will not be the first time I say this. That child terrifies me.
I have a scary child. It's fine. I think all children are pretty scary.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
No, in different ways, yeah.
Yeah. All children scare me.
Sometimes I see him and I'm flashed forward to, 16 years from now when he's swinging from his frat house chandelier. I can see
here
it.
We are.
So clearly.
So clearly. What's the first thing our children will be arrested for? Who knows? knows?
Are we saving for college, or are we saving for bail money?
I hope it's a protest.
That best case scenario.
Nail it. Well, those are wonderful, wonderful wild moments.
Yeah.
That we had.
Just us being in the wild.
Yeah.
So
me acting wild. Excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
We have to get those rage moments out somehow.
I know. You know what is so hard is when you become a parent, and other people may feel this way just when they're, I don't know, in their homes or around people or, whatever. But when I felt this way when I became a parent, someone is always watching you.
Yes.
Because I've lived with a partner. I've lived with, Chris and I were roommates before we even worked together.
Yeah.
I've always had roommates, but I didn't care that those people were watching me. I mean, I love Chris, and that's the thing, though, is that he has to love me. He promised to love me until one of us dies. So he has to. So if he's watching me, I'm like, yeah, look at me being crazy. Look at me being wild. I don't love when my 10-month-old, watches me have a wild moment. And so that's a hard thing, is someone's always watching you.
Right.
And you're like, oh, what am I doing? It's so easy to have the mom guilt when you have the wild mom moment.
It is just parenting in general, too.
Yeah.
I feel like my sweet husband on the road sometimes expresses himself too much. And now when you ask my child, what does Dada say? He says, beep, beep. Ugh.
But it's so true, because you have no idea what they pick up on, but you're still a human.
Right.
I remember having a conversation with you very recently where I was like, I think I need to accept who I am now. Some of the things aren't going back to the way they were before. Like pregnancy, hormonally, and being a parent and the sleep dipper, it all changes you. And I can't be like, oh, I'm going to go back to whoever that sweet baby angel, that innocent baby angel was before having a baby. I kind of just need to accept who I am. But you can't, I don't think, completely change once you become a parent. There are so many things that change.
Yes.
But you're still you, and you're still a person. And I would have murdered that roach if no one was looking, or if, a room of adults was looking. But it is so hard to look up and see a tiny child watch you be violent, more violent than I would like. I understand it's a bug. I get it. But no one was, if you had seen it, it wasn't anything you want a kid to see or hear. It was violent, not frustrated.
Look, she will see worse.
Exactly. And you know what? And then I tell myself this too, and then I panic because I'm like, but will she? Does she have to? Yeah, she does. She's a human in the world, so she definitely has to. But yeah, I mean, I was raised Catholic, so like the Catholic guilt is so easy. I can make myself feel guilty for blinking too hard.
Same. I wasn't even brought up Catholic.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really easy to feel guilty in those little wild moments. So
I know.
I'm glad that I have a person like you who can laugh about it with.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, my part, he came home that night and I was like, I have messed up. And then I told him, and he's like, I feel like it's fine. And I'm like, you invalidating son of a bitch. As he's trying to comfort me. I won't have it.
They can never do it right.
No. And two, like, he sees me at my rawest where I'm like, it just happened and it's so sad. And I held up the toy whose name is Spike. And then Spike's arm broke off. And he's also the nicest human in the world. So, like, today, a Spike arrived at the house. Which Spike, which is the only toy she can identify, is not a toy. It is a cup. It's a cup shaped like a bee. So I don't know how much you had to pay for that because it's from a theme park. So, but I love the intention.
What a sweet, kind-hearted man.
What a sweet man. Also, he's always sweet. He was like, yes. It's not, she won't remember, it's fine. As I'm like, you son of a bitch, don't make me feel better. Let me feel terrible about this.
Let me bask in
I killed a bug. All right, calm down.
Well, shall we dive into the day where it all ended and started?
Yeah,
for us,
absolutely.
When we lost and gained.
We lost
new parts of ourselves.
Yeah, it was an incredible time.
Earned these titles of Moms in the Wild.
Of Moms in the Wild.
And I will say that our birth stories could not be more different.
More different, yeah.
I mean,
at all.
No. So how do we want to start? Do you want to start?
I'll start. Okay. I'll start us off.
Sure.
I think I should start us off because I seldomly hear birth stories that are like my birth story.
I agree.
And I think there's a couple reasons for that. So where do I even start? I was pregnant. As most people are. All right. Because I had just gone to the gyno on Thursday. I just seen my OBGYN on Thursday. I was at, -1.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, sure, why not? 1 centimeter dilated, which I had already been I had been 1 centimeter dilated for like my past 2 visits. Everything was great. They were able to touch the baby's head, all that good stuff, you know, like she was in where she needed to be, but they weren't like you're imminently about to have, you know, a baby.
Right.
Also to note, one of the biggest part of my personalities is that I have IBS. Everyone will know it. It actually may be the only part of my personality is that I have irritable bowel syndrome. The only part of my personality. So I'll bring it up right now. Get it out there in the open. But one of the benefits about having IBS is you're constantly in like abdominal discomfort, which is only a benefit when you're pregnant. So I definitely 100% was having contractions all day, but I was like, maybe just some poops. That's how I felt. So something happened that night. So we were at the OBGYN on Thursday. The next day on Friday night, I was feeling just different. Not necessarily pain or contractions, but something was happening in my body. I honestly don't know how to describe it, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a baby this weekend. We were really close to the due date, and so I was like, I'm definitely gonna have a baby this weekend. And then I started to get some back contractions, which I never had up to that point, only had Braxton Hicks. And I was like, all right, I took a shower, I went out to Chris, I said, I think we're gonna have a baby this weekend. And he was like, 2 thumbs up. He's doing work. He's like working on his laptop. He's like, fun for us, yay. And then I went and I laid down in my bed and my water broke, which is, again, the most rare thing. No one's water breaks at the very beginning of labor when I didn't feel like I was in labor.
How unlucky for you, though.
Yeah, where I went, oh, I laid down. And I've heard that it just keeps, you know, it breaks and then it just keeps coming and keeps coming.
Right.
No one can prepare you for the amount of fluid that is just rushing out of your body in a continuous stream.
Yes.
And you feel like you're urinating.
Yeah.
Only because that's usually what comes out of there in that amount.
Yes.
You know? It's so you just feel like I just had embryonic fluids all over my house walking around. Because I was in like an oversized t-shirt, no undies, like a disgusting
human slug.
Yeah, just a human slug leaving a trail everywhere. And so I was strep B positive. So when my water broke, I did have to go to the hospital immediately, which neither one of us were looking forward to. Thinking, you hear all the stories of people being in labor for like 32 hours. I'm like, excellent. I'm going to just be at the hospital for the rest of my life.
Right.
So went to the hospital, was still only 1 centimeter dilated. Everything was very normal, comfortable, and collected. This is where I will say, what's up with medical interventions in pregnancy? You know what? Because they're so necessary sometimes, right?
Yes.
My OB wasn't even at the hospital. She was calling in. And so we get there and she wanted to give me, I forget the name of it, the thing that thins your cervix. They put it inside of you.
Oh, yeah, the pill.
Yes, and it dissolves and it helps to thin your cervix.
Yes, I will think of what it's called, but yes.
They wanted to do that, and they also wanted to start me on Pitocin.
Yeah.
And I was like, could we just wait like 2 seconds? I wasn't even admitted to hospital yet, Kate. I was in the triage being checked in.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, why not let's give it a minute. They're like, excellent, great. These are the orders though for when you get to the room, just so you know. So we get up to the room. I'm now like, oh, I'm having contractions.
Right.
This is what these are. Still very mild. Nurse comes in and checks me. I'm now 3 centimeters dilated. I know I'm making progress. And she tells me the plan to start the Pitocin and to help thin my cervix.
Yes.
And I was like, no, I don't want you to do that. I'm very blessed and very lucky. The nursing staff at the hospital, super supportive and super nice. So they didn't do that.
Great.
They said, we're going to wait 3 hours. We're going to come in and check you. And if you're progressing, excellent.
Right.
Which is exactly what happened. I just progressed through my labor. And I will say, no one in the history, I think of womanhood, femalehood that you have a uterus and you're giving birth,
right,
can prepare you for the pain of which labor is. So if you have a high pain tolerance, good for you. Because I have talked to people that have gone to the hospital like 10 centimeters dilated, their first baby, and they just breezed right through it.
Right.
I am not that person. I was like gripping the bed rails, fully don't talk to me in pain. It's an inescapable pain too. You know, you do know it's going to end, but no one can tell you when that end point is. The end point is when the baby arrives, but no one's like an hour more of pain for you, ma'am, and then you're good. No, it's just an inescapable, mind-boggling amount of pain.
Yes.
And also everything that I thought I had a peanut pillow, one of those peanut balls in my room. I had a yoga ball. They kept asking if they wanted me to take stuff out. I had a private shower. I was super bummed I didn't have a room with a bath. I had all of these things and this idea. I had been going to hypnotherapy throughout my birth. I had her record something so I could listen to this like guided meditation hypnosis.
I was a multi-page birth plan.
It was 100%. I was like, these are things I want. This is what I don't. Dim lights. Da, da, da. I was watching New Girl. I had to put New Girl on, immobilized in bed, just immobilized, and had violent diarrhea like the first 2 hours of my labor, which was horrible because you're already in so much pain.
Oh my god! I don't think I knew that part.
Oh my gosh! So the first 2 hours of the hospital were in. And again, like, you're not in your home. It's not like a place you want to be pooping. And it's great. I'm needing Chris to walk me back and forth because at this point I'm like, oh, this is.
Are you hooked up to wires at this point?
Yeah. So he has to follow me into the bathroom. Oh. You see so much. So until at that point I was like, let's close the door and have some privacy. As he's about to watch me blast a baby out of my vagina. But the diarrhea, I can't have even here with that. So I was immobilized. I was immobilized by this amount of pain. If you're about to have a baby, I'm just being real with you. It's very painful. Get ready. Or you have a high pain tolerance and it isn't. But I don't, apparently.
Maybe we should have prefaced this episode by saying, if you are about to have a baby, be warned.
Yeah.
Maybe don't listen
Everyone's
to this.
birth experience is different. Everyone's pain tolerance is different. But I was in labor with my brother for close to 20 hours without any pain interventions. And I wish she had looked at me and been like, it's absolute hell. Because I would have been, I don't know, maybe more prepared. The other thing about having a baby, in a hospital, if you're not doing a home birth and a water birth, is it is really difficult. One of the biggest things I would change if I could go back is I would absolutely have a doula. I would pay for a doula out of pocket.
100% agree.
Yeah, because Chris, I hope every person is as blessed as I am to have a partner like he is. Mm-hmm. But I really wish 100% of his attention could have been all on me.
Yes.
Where he was really trying to intervene with the nurses and trying to advocate for me. He was having to do so many multiple roles. And when I say I was immobilized, I didn't want to, when I was having a contraction, I really didn't want to talk to people. I really wanted it to be quiet. And he was really trying to help set that space for me. In a hospital setting, you don't really have much control. Nurses have to do what they're doing. They're coming in and checking on you. Same with the doctors. And they're used to doing this every single day. So where there were moments where I just really wanted peace and quiet, there wasn't peace and quiet in that room. Because I had a nurse that was sticking her fingers inside of me to check my start. You know what I mean? Yes. All these things that you don't have much control over and that are very uncomfortable. I had an anesthesiologist telling me jokes. And I'm like, all right, keep yucking it up. But let's get that epidural in. So... Labor's progressing, again, all very normal things. It's just my first experience with birth. And I was thinking, so they had checked me and I was 3 centimeters. 3 hours later, I was like, I feel, I'm in excruciating pain, but I was like, I feel like she's going to come in and be 5 centimeters dilated. It's going to be very disappointing. Right. Well, luckily for me, she came in and checked and she's like, you're at 8 centimeters. We're kind of make or break with this epidural thing. Just because your pain level is going to get higher and you're not going to be able to do it. And at that point, I was having very intense back pain, back labor, and I was very scared that I would not be able to push through the back pain because I didn't know what that would feel like. Right. So I got the epidural placed, and let me tell you, everyone should just get an epidural. Or if you don't, do you? But it was life-changing. Yes. Life-changing. It did stop my labor, so they did have to push pit, which, but I was so far, along that was my only concern was potentially labor stall and extending that period of time that I was in labor. The only other thing is I also could not feel anything an inch below my titties. So pushing, they kept looking at me going, you're pushing with your face. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means. But I guess I was.
Well, guess what, ma'am? I'm numb.
Yeah, I can't feel a goddamn thing. And so, they came in, checked me. I asked for the epidural. They placed the epidural. And then I think it was probably about 2 hours later from my water breaking until her arrival. It was about 9 hours.
That's amazing.
I believe, which is insane, is absolutely insane. And so they placed the epidural, and then it felt like 2 minutes later right when the epidural kicked in, they were like, yeah, you need to, the doctor's here. We're going to have you push. Probably 30 minutes-ish of pushing. It was such an awesome experience. I don't know if this is a holdover from COVID and not really being able to have your family with you, but there were so many people in that room that were so encouraging. The nurses took both my phone and my partner's phone and were videotaping the nurses that were kind of there for the baby once the baby arrived.
That's so great.
And he was there 100% invested in me, like holding my leg up. It was just such a wonderful, great, awesome experience. Everyone that was in the room was so encouraging, and it was taking me a while, and they didn't know what I was doing. They kept trying to say, like, push like when you're pooping. I can't feel a thing. I hear you, but I honestly can't feel a thing.
When you can't feel, it's like you have to imagine it, and that just seems foreign.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, because you can't feel any of those muscles that they're asking you to use. So my experience with epidurals, I literally could feel nothing. Like, I could not feel a single thing. And then again, to go back to where you lose that, like a lot of that autonomy and the way that you want to have control or some say in what's happening to your body. I went to an OB practice that had 5 doctors, and this doctor, we specifically talked about an episiotomy. You know, like, I would love to make eye contact with whoever's delivering my baby and look at me and just say, hey, I think we're gonna have to do an episiotomy for whatever reason, or we're gonna have to use the vacuum or forceps or whatever. Yes. Just a little conversation, as long as there's no risk factors. There were no risk factors. Baby was doing great, I was doing great, everything was awesome. And I didn't even realize this was happening, but Chris made a face and he was like, tried to kind of play it off like, nothing's happened down there. But she had done an episiotomy. Right. And she was the one also who had looked at us and been like, oh, we'll definitely talk about it. Yeah. And if there was an emergency, I also understand that tearing on an already, cut line is much easier to repair than if I had just torn naturally.
Sure, but where is the consent? Where is, with this conversation that we've had, where it's very important to me that before you do anything that requires, like, additional support during this birth, that you just check with me.
Yeah, so a quickie.
The fact that stuff goes out the window is so disappointing. And I've not heard of one birth where something like that didn't happen.
Yeah. And the also, just to back up a little bit, before they pushed Pitt, when my labor had stalled, the doctor didn't ask. It was 2 nurses that were in the room that were like, the patient has specifically said she doesn't want it. And then I got to say, no, it's okay. Like, now that I'm in labor and I'm not going to feel, because Pitocin, just watching my contractions on the monitor compared to the contractions my body was naturally producing, I don't know how women do that. I don't know how women get Pitocin if they aren't having any other pain medical interventions, because they were insane. Yeah. The contractions I was having were just off the charts insane. I was so grateful that I was not experiencing that level of pain, because they were so much bigger than what my body, I think, would have been able to produce itself naturally. And so, just that whole, like you said, there was no conversation. There was no, even if you just said, hey, I'm going to have to do this because the baby, she was turning, and that's why she felt she needed to do that. She needed to have her hands, the doctor needed to have her hands a little bit more involved than she had thought. But it would have been really nice to just have a little combo, especially because I was in zero amount of pain. I was literally just staring down the barrel of my own vagina, like just hanging out until this baby.
5-second
just like
welfare
a quick
check.
2 seconds to say, hey, gonna have to slice you open for a second. And then with a push, she got really stuck at my tailbone, and then we had finally one good push, and she was out and in the world.
Crazy.
Why? It was very wild.
Yes.
And they just put her on my chest, cleaned her all up. That's another thing, again, with, you don't really have much shade. The nurses and the pediatric nurses were very respectful. It sounds like a weird word, but just let us have our time. I was asking them some questions. This doctor was chatting my fucking ear off. When I watch videos of it, I'm like, shut the fuck up and let me have this moment. I'm being very polite and responding in the video, but when I rewatched it, I'm like, I wish she would just shut up.
This is she's a huge moment for me, and you're trying to talk about your weekend. Which
was 100% basically what she was doing. She wasn't checking in to see. She did one time to say, hey, can you feel this, while she was stitching me up, because, we don't want you to. We want you to be comfortable. I couldn't feel it. So that was really the only medical check-in. And then she's chatting with my partner. It was the weirdest thing. When I go back and watch those videos, I'm like, I wish she would just shut up. And also, it's her voice continuously on the video.
I think they become desensitized to this.
I absolutely agree.
And it's so life-changing for you and your partner, but to them, it's like you're the 8th birth of the day, which is just, frustrating, but I do understand like where you can get that. But also like if you fully see someone recording this special moment, like zip it,
quiet down,
just
quiet
whisper.
down. Be less personable. I love your bedside manner when I haven't when I don't have my new child on my chest.
Right. Do you want to talk about the fact that both of us did not know what we were having before?
Oh yeah,
and what that moment was like for you?
That was so exciting.
Yes.
So we did not find out the sex of the baby.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was very exciting because Chris got to announce the sex of our baby. And so it was so cute because it's on video. So he was like, oh, we had a baby girl.
Aww.
And there she was. So adorable. Yeah, and she was great. We went to mommy and baby recovery. Because I was strep B positive, we had to stay, or she had to stay, I think about 36, maybe 72. She had to stay a little bit longer than I needed to stay. You know, the first night is wild. But again, we had very supportive nursing staff, which was awesome. I won't go much into breastfeeding because I know we're going to do like a feeding your children episode. So that was a lot. But yeah, it was really great. I had a really wonderful birth experience. You really did. And I have to attribute it a lot to the nurses. Yeah, it was wonderful.
I have to say I'm so happy for you that was your experience.
Same.
Because
girl, same.
I was the polar opposite.
Yes.
But hearing how quickly you went from your water breaking to meeting your baby was just like the dream.
Yeah. And 9 hours, it feels like 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, like it, when I was, by the time I was having like probably 5 to 7 centimeters dilated and having that pain, that felt like a whole lifetime. But from water breaking to her being here, it felt, like 2 hours had passed. Tell us about your birth story.
Sweet birth story. So I went to my 39-week appointment, and I'd been fine up until all my appointments where they're checking you. I was never like dilated. My blood pressure was always good. So I went to my 39-week appointment, and they took my blood pressure, and they were like, hey, are you nervous about coming today? And I was like, yeah, no. They're like, okay, well, I just want to prepare yourself that you're probably going to have a baby today.
Excellent.
But we're going to take your blood pressure again at the end of the appointment and see if it's any lower. So guess what's not going to lower my blood pressure?
The imminent arrival of my child.
Telling me I am going to have a baby today when I'm not prepared. 0% prepared. They checked me. I was like, I think they said I was barely 1 centimeter dilated, and they could not feel the baby's head. And so they're like, that's weird. Let's do an ultrasound. And she puts it up and she goes, I don't understand how you're breathing right now. And my 39-week-old baby was shoved underneath one rib, basically.
No.
Yeah. She's like, they didn't know if it was a boy or girl at the time, but they're shoved into your lung. And I was like, that explains a lot. Thank you.
Why I have not been able to breathe.
So that just puts in perspective how high he was.
Does this explain my blood pressure? Because I would love if that was the case.
Yeah. So they take my blood pressure at the end of the appointment, and they're like, it's higher. And I said, okay. And they said, here are your choices. You can go home and monitor your blood pressure. However, when they took my blood pressure and it was higher, everyone in the room got very quiet, and it was clear that it was a scary situation.
Yeah.
So they're like, you can go home and monitor your blood pressure, or we're going to send you to the hospital and get induced.
I do have to ask you this. How were you meant to monitor your blood pressure? Did you have a blood pressure cuff at your house?
I was going to have to go buy one and know how to put it on correctly.
Were you going to sit at a CVS and just have your arm in one of those things and just wait it out and then call an ambulance when it got hot? Or when it got
I don't know.
Yeah, so you didn't have two options. They gave
me one option. So we say, why don't you just go ahead and call the hospital? Because at that point I broke down. Yeah. Whenever I'm overwhelmed, I cry. And I cried my whole wedding day. You were there. I cried from makeup to after the ceremony. Yeah. I cried the entire ceremony. It looked as if I was being drugged against my will, which was not the case. But so I immediately break down, and I'm like, I'm not prepared. Even though it was 39 weeks, I should have been prepared, right? But I thought I was going to have one of those movie moments like you did, where I feel a little contraction. I hadn't felt a contraction up to that point.
Yeah.
So the doctor had said we could go to the house really quickly and get what we needed to before we went to the hospital. And I took that opportunity to deep clean my house.
Absolutely. I love a good nest. Just a good nesting experience.
And David is like, I think they meant come now. And I was like, I will when I finish the Swiffering this floor. So once we get to the hospital, check-in takes forever, which this starts signaling to me that this is not as emergency of a situation as I thought that it was. So I then started to have a little bit of doubts, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But then you're in it. You're checked in.
100%.
You're getting up to a room. So we get there, the tablet is called the Miso tablet.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, yes, yes.
So they put the miso tablet on my cervix. We wait 3 hours. I'm like, good. Guess what? You're having contractions. I'm like, oh, great. I don't even feel them. And on the monitor, they're like just tiny little contractions.
Yeah. And you're like, how much worse can this get?
Oh, if I'm having contractions, I don't feel them.
I don't even feel
look
them.
at me go. At this point, still 1 centimeter dilated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby.
So, and they still cannot feel the baby's head. They do the miso, 3 hours later, come back, I'm still 1 centimeter dilated. They're like, let's do it again. I'm like, this is the next step, to just do that again?
Is it painful?
No, it's just...
So it just like dissolves, you don't really...
No.
You didn't really feel... Okay,
I'm sure if it was working, it may have been a little painful. But it was not doing anything for me.
And so the whole thing with the miso thins the cervix, which cues your body to start having contractions.
Yes.
Or, yes, we're going to start labor.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
So then they do it again. 3 hours later, they come back, and I think at this point I was only like 2 centimeters dilated. They're like, okay, well, great, it's working. And I'm like, it's been 3 hours, and I've been 1 centimeter.
Okay, but honestly, also, is it working?
Yes. So at this point, they're like, okay, we're going to start Pitocin. I'm like,
brave soldier.
Fine.
Honest to God.
So they had...
Did you also say, I will need a shot of something? Anything.
Well, so at this point, I'm still not on any pain medicine because, like, it's fine. It's just taking forever, which I was not prepared for, like, the marathon that I was in for.
Yeah. And they don't let you eat. Now that you're in it, they won't let you eat. Yeah.
No. Even before the Pitocin, they wouldn't let me eat.
And they also don't really tell you that.
No.
Which I feel like would be helpful if they checked you in and said, hey, we're going to fill your belly because we're going to do a bunch of medical stuff that once we do it, you can't eat.
Yes.
That's just a little side. I just think you should have had an opportunity to get some
eat.
energy.
I know.
Yeah. Or like drink a smoothie down or something.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So I do the Pitocin. I'm doing the peanut ball, laying on, either having me move sides. I'm bouncing on the yoga ball for hours and hours. I'm up and I'm walking. I'm doing like the labor walking, waddling. And they come back and they're like, at this point it is, I think, midnight of the same day. And we had gotten checked in at like
the
12
morning, basically.
PM.
Yeah, afternoon, yeah.
So I've been there for 12 hours and they're like, okay, you're 3 centimeters dilated. So it's happening. It's just happening slowly. And I was super defeated. Of course you are, because you want to come in like you, where they just come in and your life have progressed. Like something is happening.
Especially because you were working so hard for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and this was before the pandemic. So a month before the pandemic is when this all was happening. So my mom was there and David was there. And they were both doing a really great job. I had said, like, the one thing I didn't want to do was have to be drug it right into a C-section. So they both knew that, like, if I could do a natural birth, that's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So at 12 hours, they said, we're going to have to give you more Pitocin, but to do that, we have to insert an internal ultrasound, or an internal, like, monitor.
Oh, okay.
So we can make sure baby's okay. So I was like, okay, so they let me take a pit break, which I got to eat. But at that point, it was 2 a.m. So the cafeteria was basically closed. I think I had like half of a stick of pepperoni, like a pepperoni stick, and called it a day. So they come in, they do the Pitocin, they insert the Foley bulb, which is that bulb that they put in, and then it inflates. So what they didn't realize...
I'm actively cringing. I know this is a podcast, but I know these were things that you have to do and a lot of individuals have to do but I just can't, like, this... Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Keep continuing.
The Foley bulb, so they insert it and then they blow it up. So what I didn't realize, because I'm a just regular human who has no medical training, and what my nurses unfortunately didn't realize is when they put the Foley bulb in, it blocked my bladder. So I was on the max dose of Pitocin with the Foley bulb, with the internal monitor, trying to do the peanuts still, for an additional 12 hours before they realized that I hadn't peed in 12 hours. And when they're putting IV fluids in
and
me.
You're not paying attention to that.
No. Exactly. So my contractions at this point are so painful, but they're not that strong. Finally, a nurse comes in and she's like, when's the last time you used the restroom? Because I was in like shaking. My whole body was shaking because when I was having the contractions, it was just pushing on my over-inflated bladder. And so finally they realized it and they did a catheter. They were like, this is not good. Like, you should have told somebody. And I was like, my nurses were not good. I will just put that out there. Like, I had some good nurses. I will say I was very let down by my nursing team at the hospital. A lot of it, I felt like they would, like, try to blame me. And I'm like, I don't have any idea that I'm not supposed to pee. How would I thought maybe you would have catheter in when you were down there. Like, I have no idea.
Or also, too, again, because you had no idea, you also said that you were kind of trying to just go into it without any of these preconceived notions.
Yeah.
You hadn't seen anyone give birth
No.
before. This is your first time giving birth. Maybe in your mind, you're like, I don't need to be peeing. Maybe my body doesn't pee during birth.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, maybe, I don't know what happens.
They drained my bladder, which I think, like, allowed for something to happen. At this point, I don't even know how long I had been there. It was the next one. So at this point, I'm at least at 24 hours of labor. When the doctor comes in, she's like, you're 5 centimeters dilated. I'm going to break your water. I'm like, great. What's one more thing up there?
Yeah. Also, after 24 hours, you're probably like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Right. At this point, at 24 hours, I was looking around the room like, I'm ready to just have this baby cut out of me.
Yeah.
And my sweet support team, all they had heard was like, I just really wanted to not try to have a C-section if I couldn't help it.
Sure.
So they were like, you can do it. I had this one nurse come in and give me this, like, if there's 1% chance this baby can be birthed vaginally, you can be the one to do it. And I was like, I don't want to be the 1%.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm done.
No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going another 24 hours of labor where I'm telling you, they could never feel this child's head at all. Even, I think the most I got dilated was 5 centimeters. I never went past the 5 centimeters dilated, and he just wasn't coming. So at that point, at 48 hours in, I was like, I just looked at the doctor who came in to round on me, and I was like, get it out. Cut it out. I'm done. And they were like, okay, I think that's the right call. I'm like, it was the right call 24 hours ago. Nobody was just listening to me.
No one was listening to me say, I need this baby delivered.
Yes.
So, and everything you're doing, not working.
Yes.
So let's find let's do an alternative method.
Yes.
Right?
So somewhere in that later 24 hours before I had said, cut it out, they placed an epidural that did not work. So they come in as I'm getting prepped for surgery. And as soon as you say you want a C-section, it turns into, like, almost as if you're in, like, a trauma center. It's crazy. Like, there's 800 people in the room. Someone's washing you with wipes. Someone's, like, giving you something to rinse in your mouth. The epidural team's placing your spinal block or whatever it is that you get. So they replaced my spinal block or epidural, and I'm able to lift my legs off of the bed. Like, if someone had said, like, please get up and walk to this table, I definitely would have.
Yeah.
And the same time that they're doing all this, they give you this stuff to swish in your mouth. Why? I have no idea. But they're like, whatever you do, don't swallow any of it. And I'm like, great. I haven't eaten in 48 hours. So as soon as you tell me the word swallow, my first thing is like, my body is like, swallow.
Yeah.
So I did swallow a little bit, ended up just vomiting.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Uncontrolled.
I also like that they kind of like waited till it was in your mouth. They're like, here you go, put that in your mouth, don't swallow it. And you're like, well, now, of course, I'm fucking you idiots. Why would you do that?
I'm exhausted and I have
this
no
is basically
sustenance.
poison. Don't swallow it. Tell me that pre-giving me it.
So we're wheeling down to everyone David gets in his scrubs. I get in my hairnet thing. And I think I was anticipating being more scared than I was. I think I was just so tired. And
I was just going to ask you that. Because
mentally, like, I was a shell of a human.
Yeah.
But I knew that this epidural was not working how it should have. Like, I knew that for sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling them, as we're leaving the room, I can still lift my legs up. And they're like, it'll kick in by the time we get to the OR.
Again, with the, like, very dehumanizing, no autonomy, you don't get a say.
And I don't know if they thought I was, like, being dramatic.
But even if they did, that's not their call.
No.
That's my big thing. And I work in the medical field. It's no shade on, like, medical professionals. I do think that there is some amount of apathy from just seeing it over and over and over again, and there's not a connection or understanding that this is your first time giving birth.
Yes.
This is your first birth experience. It's not happening the way that you had planned or predicted it. And if someone was going to do any type of surgery on me, and I was alert, oriented, and could feel it, I would have been terrified.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you have that moment where you're in there and your partner's not allowed in yet. So I'm laying on the table, like, in the Jesus on the cross position. And I had said, like, they're like, we're going to lift you from the bed to the table. And I said, I can get up and walk on the table right now. And they're like, oh, okay, lift your leg. And I could lift both legs off of the table. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. Like, it really felt very, like, laissez-faire. And that's when I started to get worried. Because I was like, I think
they're going to fully do a surgery.
Something is about to happen. So I'm talking to the anesthesiologist, who I can't see at this point because I'm laying down. And I'm like, I'm scared because I can still feel it. He's like, you will feel pressure, but I promise you're not going to feel anything. Like, it's working. And I'm like, he's like, sometimes, like, this happens. People can, like, lift their legs and stuff. It's fine. I'm like, okay. So excellent. David comes in the room, and I was just like, I'm scared. Like, this, I can feel things. So he's talking to the anesthesiologist. He's like, telling him the same thing. If she feels it, we'll give her more pain medicine. Like, don't worry. So they start the operation, and sure enough, I can feel it. And I'm not a very, like, emotive person in pain, but the doctor at one point, she, like, does the first incision. She's like, she is bearing against me. Like, I can feel her, like, pushing against me.
Yeah.
So do something. And at that point, I feel legally they should have knocked me out. But I don't know what he gave me to, like, dull it just a little bit. But I could still feel what they were doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that just pressure that people
that they describe it as.
No.
Yeah.
So anyways, they get the baby out. What is, like, a little moment of levity here is that we also didn't know what the sex of the baby was.
Yeah.
And I was convinced. You could not have told me any different that I was having a girl. 100% I was pregnant with a girl. They pull the baby out, and they have, like, the screen that you're, not screen, but, like, the
plastic thingy, so you can see, yeah.
And they pull him out, and David says, "It's a boy." And I look at him and I say, "No, it's not."
You are wrong, sir.
I am pregnant with a girl. And he's, like, staring at a penis.
You know what? I'm looking at a penis right now there, honey.
But it was so, in, like, that moment where I was in so much pain, and it was so traumatizing, and I'd been through so much, like, looking at his face when she put him, I didn't even see him, like, face to face. I saw him in between the plastic. I was like, I have known you my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I was here to do. It's like, I was here to do all of this to be your mom. So it was just so sweet, and they get him all cleaned up. They put him on my chest. And at that point, I think the, like, stiff upper lip part had ended because my baby was here. And I also didn't understand how much longer it was going to have to be. Mm-hmm. Which, in reality, like, they have to put your organs back in. They have to, like, do multiple layers of, like, putting you back together. So they put the baby on my chest, and I was in so much pain, I didn't feel comfortable having him on. I couldn't hold him. Like, I thought I was going to, like, launch him off of my chest.
Yeah.
So they ended up taking him, and the poor guy was just stuck. He came out with a knot on his head that was, like, the size of, like, a small melon.
Yes.
It was terrifying.
Because he was just ramming into your pelvis,
into my pelvis for 48 hours.
And was probably like, can you stop?
He came out, bless his heart, black eyes.
Yeah.
Bruises on his face. He looked like he'd been through the fight of his life, which he had.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, this is not meant. I'm not meant to exit this way, fam.
No,
please just take me out. Just take me out, please."
So, like, to say that, I don't know, it could have gone worse. I don't know how much worse it could have gone.
Yeah,
but I know it could have. And luckily, like, we had a healthy baby who was just fine despite like all of his physical, scary looking self to start. But yeah, and then the only other thing about that is, you know, you do the first nights in the hospital and whatever, and about a week after we had him, I make a random comment to my husband, "Oh, I'm feeling a little bit of, like, pain in the back of my leg." And he's like, "Oh, that's weird. I'll rub it for you." And thank God my mom was there still, because she said, "Oh, I think when we were being discharged, they mentioned something about if you have leg pain, you need to go seen."
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, "Oh, no, it's fine. I'll just call the office and see." So they called me back, and they were like, "Go back to the hospital."
Immediately.
Which I had, like, a 1-week-old. And I was like, no, I'm not.
I haven't slept ever when we have a 1-week-old. And I don't know what I'm doing. And no, I don't want to go back. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So I ended up going, obviously. And David had to stay with our brand new baby by himself because my mom went with me. Because I couldn't drive after the C-section. So I ended up
also, you've had a major surgery.
Yes.
And you have a wound inside of your body the size of a dinner plate.
Yes.
So, like, yeah. And you're just casual exiting the house, having to go to the hospital.
Yes. So I go back.
You amazing fucking human. So, yes, you went back.
I went back, and sure enough, I had a blood clot, a deep vein thrombosis, DVT, in the back of my leg from the surgery.
So happy you went back.
Thank God I had gone, because those are life-threatening. Like, those will kill you.
Oh, yeah, you could have died, 100%.
So, yeah, just a whole lot, which resulted in 2 shots a day of blood thinners in my stomach for 3 months.
Did you have to go to an office to do that, or did you self-administer?
Self-administer.
You had to self-administer.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, it was so much medical intervention that, I think I've had to go to the hospital again for another surgery, which we'll talk about in another episode, but it just brought a lot of trauma around just doctors and hospitals in general, I think.
Yeah.
And, and that certainly, I tried to go into my birth with, like, I'm going to just go with the flow. Whatever needs to happen is going to happen. And I don't know if being more prepared would have helped me. The one thing I will 1000% agree with you on is I would have had a doula there.
Someone actually gave me a really good suggestion, which was put it on your registry.
Oh, great.
Put it on that baby registry. Like, you put so many things for baby, which of course it is a baby registry, but you need stuff. You need stuff as a mom. Throw the cost of a doula for a little bit on that registry. It makes a world of difference, and someone will get it. That was one of the best advice you ever gave me, was put everything on the registry.
Yeah.
Don't leave anything off. Put your high ticket items, your low ticket items, because you have to get it anyway.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't buy it, then you're just going to buy it yourself, and it doesn't matter if it's on there or not.
Yeah.
So do that with the doula or the midwife or whatever you're wanting to have that extra advocate to be there.
Yes.
Throw it on your registry.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a nice gift to you.
And I just want to say, like, just a couple things. I'm just compiling in my brain here really quickly about C-sections that I was not prepared for. Yeah. One, you will still bleed vaginally. As much as a person who gave vaginal birth.
100%.
I was not. I thought, okay, great. I'm just not going to deal with vaginal bleeding. And no, I bled for 2 weeks.
Forever. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Just bleed forever.
After. So that's something to prepare for. Not being able to get out of the bed for the first, I think it was 12 hours. Which is hard when you have a screaming newborn next to you. If your partner is like asleep because they've also been up for 48 hours or 72 at that point, that's difficult. I did not follow the stay in bed for 12 hours rule, and I regretted it. So if you have a C-section,
stay in bed.
Stay in bed as long as they tell you. And you don't get to eat real food after that. Which, after not eating for as many hours as I did, I was so furious about. They do like the clear liquids.
Yep.
Until you can pass gas, I think. And then you get to move on to, like, soft foods or whatever. So just prepare. Like, I would say to anyone listening who is about to have a baby or thinking about having a baby in the future or knows someone who's about to have a baby, you need to just, 2 small pieces of advice, get that doula and eat when you can. But that's it. I mean, that's it.
Oh, that's so much. I'm so glad you shared that. I do like that, how different our birth stories are, because I think everyone's birth story is different.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell you about their traumatic birth stories, because I think it is a way for you to talk about the trauma that has happened to you. So if you have a bunch of people telling you about their traumatic birth stories, I don't think that that's the only type of birth that you may have, but I do think it's a way for individuals to tell their story and to tell what happened. I tell my birth story and it's beautiful and lovely, but also, only if someone asks. I don't feel like I need to disclose or share it, because I don't think that it imparts knowledge or wisdom on most people. I just enjoy sharing it. So I do want to say that. I think a lot of times we hear the most traumatic stories. Not that that's not valid. It is valid, but I just think it's people needing to share what has happened to them.
I do
you
think
don't know
that's
what will happen.
Exactly. You never know. And I will say that, like, I don't share my birth story unless I'm asked.
Yeah.
Like, and I always do preface it by saying, like, I will tell you exactly what happened, not to scare you, but I will warn you, like, there are some traumatic things. So if you don't want to hear it, like, change your mind at any point, because it is like, I like say that, and sitting here right now, I cannot believe how it went. Like, it feels like I watched someone else do it in one way, and the other way, like, I still have a ton of trauma that I need to work through from it. But one of the great things about my experience is they threw the book at me. I got every single intervention that you could think of, which has empowered me to help my friends through. I mean, I had a friend who was induced who I literally texted the whole time. And, like, she'd be like, they're coming in with this. What does that mean? And now they want to do this. What should I know about it? And I think it does give you the information to empower your friends, because I think that would be what a doula would do. I agree. I think having that person that's there, but sometimes that is a lifeline friend, you know, where you can text or call, and that's a person that you feel comfortable with being able to do that. And what was your experience like? I was so ready for things to go not the way I wanted them to, because I hadn't had a lot of individuals share with me stories. And to be honest, I hadn't had a lot of people share stories that happened in hospitals. I had a lot of individuals that had home births and water births or births at birthing centers with midwives. And they had experiences, similar to mine and the way my birth progressed, but not a lot of individuals that went to hospitals, which was a choice that we made mostly because of our insurance. It wasn't necessarily like, I really want to be in a medical setting. I'd really like to be in a hospital. That is what my insurance was able to pay for. And again, goes back to, that idea of you can't always be the most autonomous human being or have that much say in what your birth looks like.
if you don't have a financial situation, then can allow you to have that type of
At the very least, I wish I had identified a lifeline friend, like you said, who would, and your mom being there is so great, because moms they love you more than anyone else, as we know, and like they're so comforting, but they don't remember the ins and outs and the details. And I wish I had a mom who had just given birth, within a couple of years or months, that I could have just called during those times.
Absolutely.
And said, like, what can I expect?
Yeah.
What would you do if you could go back and do it again? That would just be something. Like, identify a lifeline friend that you can just pick up the phone and say, or text, or have your partner text, or whatever, and say, and they can just check on you.
Because you do feel a little bit like you're on an island. And I think COVID, like, definitely, drilled that in, where you were only able to have one person. Again, I think it's even more important to have that support system that's outside of the hospital or outside of your birthing place.
But that's it, I think.
Is there anything else that you...
No, I think that's kind of where it ends before we start really getting into... I mean, that was the day we became moms.
Yeah.
Where we got this title.
Was there anything extremely funny that happened that you can, like, look back through from the doctor's office visit till he was born that makes you, like, do a little chuckle?
The only thing the only real accomplishment I had during my labor process is I watched a whole season of The Bachelor.
Nailed it. Isn't it?
That tells you how long I was in the freaking hospital.
Yeah,
I watched
just like
one whole season of The Bachelor on Netflix.
That is amazing advice you gave us, though, which I would like to now give. Oh, yes. Which is, if you can bring we brought a laptop because we couldn't get the Fire Stick to work. So we brought a laptop, a Fire Stick. Mm-hmm. Any device that's not a phone. You don't really, like, I was not going to be interested in holding a phone close to my face or having Chris hold the phone close to my face to watch something on a tiny screen. So laptop.
Fire Stick,
Apple
TV,
whatever you can plug into the TV or have a screen in front of you, if that is what is helpful, for you. I did not think I would be watching something on TV.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because I was like, I have this beautiful hypnosis thing, and I have all these things. No, I was like, put on New Girl immediately. Because it's like, all right, you got it, boo.
Yeah, no, we watched, and the nurses thought we were hilarious because it was an old season. It was a way old season.
And you're like, oh, this is great.
And David was in pure hell. Yeah. He hated it.
Hated it.
My mom and I were like living back.
Just loving it.
Oh, yeah. As much as I could love it, I was just like, at least this is distracting me.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. You know what? That's why there were so many things I read and so many videos I watched and all this stuff about, unmedicated births. Mm-hmm. And again, no judgment. If you are in your unmedicated birth and you are in it without distraction and that works for you, great. But there was nothing I wanted more than to forget that I was within my own body. I was like, put on New Girl, smash some cymbals right next to my face, lliterally do anything that makes me forget the amount of pain I'm in.
Yes, 1,000%.
Anything that will make me forget that. Yeah. Same. I remember by the time the anesthesiologist came in, because I was so far along, he was like, were you trying not to have this? And I was like, I just kind of wanted to see what it was like. He just laughed and then started telling jokes. It was very annoying because I started contracting, but fine. There's some sprinkle some magic and fun in there, Yeah. Those were fun things. I think that's it.
I think that's it too. So thank you for hanging in there and listening.
Yay!
Okay, bye.